Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Today I am going to show you a very important process. This process is known as artworking a cover, and we do this when we are ready to send a book to print or when the inner pages are at the printer already. The printer then often checks the number of pages in your book. He, she or they check the kind of paper that you have chosen for the book to be printed on. The kind of paper that you've chosen will of course depend on, the kind of book that it is. Is it a simple book that only has text? Is it a book with text and pictures? Is it a children's book perhaps that is fully illustrated and a different kind of size? Is it going to be a very expensive, perhaps what we would call a photographic book? You may wish to use locally found paper, very easily available in the printing press. You may wish to use various kinds of imported paper. It will depend first on the kind of book that you have designed, and secondly, it will depend on the kind of budget that you have. Always keeping in mind, of course, that what is going to be the cost of the final product, you should hope to recover it from the sales of the book. So you must keep that in mind. Don't opt for very expensive imported papers if you know the book is going to be a more reasonably priced publication. So be careful also when you decide on production material. If you do have a hand in making those choices, often those choices are made by the publisher. Now, usually in the publishing process, when a book is first accepted for publication and the publisher decides to start doing some advance publicity for it, at that point, the publisher requires only the front cover of the book. Not the rest of it. You will have seen often on social media or even on any of the online bookshops, people put up just the front cover and they say, coming soon or forthcoming. They have a little write-up on the book. They announce the number of pages. They give you a price. On Amazon, for example, and various other such online, books selling sites, you can even pre-order a book. Booksellers in the real world, people who actually run bookshops, they are sent that first front cover only to drum up what we would call advance orders, to create excitement about the book and so on. So just that little rectangle that you see on the screen or you may see on a poster, that is the front cover of the book. When the book goes to print, the rest of the cover has to be designed. So in a paperback book, for example, you will have to then think about the spine, you will have to think about the back cover, etc. In a hardback jacket, please note the word, for a hardback, we have a jacket. The idea of the jacket comes from the notion that originally, in a very traditional, now slightly older world of publishing, the hardback, now we use paper or rexine or some kind of material like that. Once upon a time, they were actually bound in cloth, so they are also known as cloth-bound editions. The cardboard part of the book used to have a cloth binding, and on which, if you have been to a library or if you have very old books at home, you'll see how the lettering used to be embossed in gold. There would be lettering on the front cover, there would be lettering on the spine, they would be done in gold. That was the, once upon a time, that was the traditional form of what we now call a hardback edition. In time, obviously, we discovered the cloth tends to get dirty, keeping them for generations, long use, it becomes a problem. So a paper jacket, a paper wrap over was devised. That is called the dust jacket, because all the dust can fall on that paper jacket. When it becomes too dirty or if it becomes torn, you can always throw away the paper jacket, and then you are still left with that cloth-bound book. So for hardbacks or hardbound books, we use the word jacket, and for paperbacks, we use the word cover. Today, what I would like to show you is the process of artworking a paperback cover. Artworking means an artwork that is done to measurement, right? It is done to the final measurement. I'm closing this older file. I don't need it. I am going to File and I am saying New Project. And when New Project opens up, I am choosing A3. A3 is double the size you normally get your printouts on, that is A4, and I want to make it landscape. This is all that I'm concerned with, an A3 single page landscape document. So I don't need facing pages, and I don't need automatic text box, and I don't have to concern myself even with these. I'm not bothered about the guides. I just need a flat big A3 document in the landscape mode. And here is my document. I can for the time being close my colors palette. I can for the time being close my page layout palette so that I am merely left with my toolbar and my page. Now for the purposes of this class, we will be working on artworking a cover for a book whose width is 5 inches, whose height is 8 inches, and the spine thickness of which is half an inch or 0.5 inches. Okay, let's just keep these dimensions in mind. This whole strip of measurements will be given to you by the publisher. So you need not worry. The spine is calculated by the printer, and the book will be as thin or as thick depending on the kind of paper that has been chosen for it, right? And obviously also depending on the number of pages, which will make that book thicker or thinner. The first step that we will do is we will come to the picture box tool. And as you will be able to see now, I'm going to minimize my screen a little bit. There we go. Here is my picture box tool, and I draw the picture box. And immediately I come to the bottom of my screen to what we know as the measurement bar. And in width, I put 5, which is going to be my cover size. And in height, I put 8. That's going to be the height. As I have been told here on the top, width is 5 inches, height is 8 inches, right? Now, having done this, I'm going to introduce you to a new feature that we haven't yet explored, for which we need to go to the item menu, and we need to come to this, which is known as super step and repeat. You'll notice earlier we had come to the item menu to get this option, which is now not selected, merge or split path. You may remember we had also used flip shape, horizontal or vertical. Merge or split path we had discussed in my last lecture, where I had said if you have 2 or more shapes, it will not show up. The option to merge obviously will not show up unless you have at least 2 selected boxes that you want to merge or come up with a different shape. Remember this, don't panic if it is not showing up. It means at least 2 shapes must be selected. So keep this in mind. From the same item menu, we come to step and repeat. Now, often when you use step and repeat, this is the default that Quark shows you. It shows you 0.25 here and it shows you 0.25 here. We do not need these. So I would recommend you turn them to 0. Okay. And look at this. Repeat count 1. It stays at 1. Horizontal offset is the width of the box we want to repeat. So the width is 5 inches and I get an exact box. Right? Did you understand what I just did? I am moving in the left to right direction. I'm drawing a line and making it an arrow. Okay. I have drawn the line and made it an arrow to show you the direction in which we are moving. Because we are moving from left to right or east to west, that is a horizontal movement. So in item super step and repeat, we have said nothing on the vertical, no north-south movement. We only want east-west movement or left to right or horizontal movement, and the distance that you put while artworking a cover is the width of the box you are repeating. If you remember this instruction, you can never go wrong. When you are creating a cover grid, when you are repeating boxes along the horizontal axis, always put for horizontal offset the width of the box that you are repeating. So now we have got a 5-inch box. If you can visualize in your head the way the cover artwork will happen, this box actually will become the spine. If I look at the top of my screen, I can see that the printer has told me the spine is 0.5 inches, right? So I go back to my minimal view. Here we are. This box that I have repeated must become 0.5. This is going to be my spine box, okay? While this box is selected, I go back to item and I say super step and repeat again. This time I am repeating the spine box. The width of the spine box is 0.5. I type that in and I get the duplicate of the spine. I have to make this my front cover. So I come and simply alter the width to 5 inches. Now if you look at my screen, you can visualize this will be the book's front cover, this will be the spine, and this is going to be the back cover, right? Please note, throughout this process, we have been moving in the left to right direction, or we have been moving along what I call, or anybody else would also call, the horizontal axis, right? We have not sent things from top to bottom, so we have not required the vertical offset, which is why vertical offset has been left at 0. Please be very careful. When figure out the direction in which you are repeating the object and put the number for that direction. Clear? And while artworking covers, the golden rule, especially when you are using the boxes to get what I would call your cover grid, please use the width of the box you are repeating in the horizontal offset box. If you remember this formula, then you can't go wrong. Now, if you look at my page, you will notice that the design is sitting a bit to the left corner, right? I have so much empty space here where my mouse is going round and round in circles currently. I want to bring my design to sit in the middle of this page, the exact middle, and I don't want to do it manually. I don't want to move anything. I don't want to destroy this grid. It is vital for a great print for the boxes to be exactly beautifully placed beside each other. So what I do is with my box tool selected, I say Control All. Now I can delete this box at the top. I don't want the measurement box anymore. I say Control All with the item tool. If you say Control All with the item tool, you're saying select all items, and I do Command G or Control G for group. It's very easy to remember this abbreviation, G for group, right? Control G or Command G, what it does is all the 3 boxes have been grouped together now, and I come to the bottom of my screen on the measurement bar and I choose an option that says Space Align. Can you all see that? Right here where my mouse is, it says Space Align. The idea of the Space and Align option is you have certain objects, you wish to align them in a particular space. If you understand what the software is doing for you, then you will not forget how to use it and you will not be confused about it. I want to align these objects to the center of my page, so I come down to my Space Align option. That's step 1. I have been repeating this option. See here, if I bring it, it says Page Relative. Page relative means objects in relation to the page. I first say not objects in relation. This is item relative. You have 2 items, you want to align them in relation to each other. I have a group which I want to align to the page. The minute I choose page relative mode, Many options have come up over here. The first one is telling me align the left. Second is telling me align the top. This is saying align the bottom, and this is saying align the right. If you ever get confused about these options, look closely at the little icon and you will see a straight line. The straight line indicates the level or the side or the margin of alignment. The one I want is this: align horizontal centers, align vertical centers. Okay? Horizontal center, can you see the box jumped once to the middle of the page? And vertical center also, it jumps. Now, without my requiring any manipulation, I have got my artwork exactly in the center of my page. Okay? When you need to do something like this, don't try to move it manually. Just select all the boxes, Command G for group, and come down to space align, choose page relative and say align horizontal center, align vertical center. Now that that's done, we have to do something very important, for which we need the magnifying glass. With the magnifying glass selected, pretend you are drawing, as you can see on my screen, with the magnifying glass selected, pretend you are drawing a little box, not a big box, okay, a very little box, and I'm holding this so that you can see it clearly. Pretend you are drawing a little box on the top left corner of your screen. Draw the box and let go. What this does is it helps you magnify a portion. Can you see that? Every time I'm drawing, it's getting closer and closer. Then you go to the move tool. You go up to the margin as I have shown you earlier, and you draw a green guide to sit exactly at the top of the box. You will remember these green guides. We had last used them when we were deciding on the page margin while typesetting on the master page, when we were constructing the template. Come to this side and draw a guide at the corner of this box. Please do this with as much magnification as possible. When you have done the top corner, do Command 0. I will now do an experiment with you to show you why you need magnification. This is the page as you can see it and I can see it, and I draw a guide from the top and I put it visually. It looks to me as if I've done a brilliant job. Can you see I've got it so close to the blue line, and I'm going to put it here at the edge, and I'm feeling terribly proud of myself because I think, oh, you know, why do I need to magnify? This is perfectly okay, and I've drawn a beautiful guide. If I take my magnifying glass and I again draw a little box to magnify this corner, can you see the gap that is here, right? See this gap. It looks to the eye as if you have done it correctly, but guides, when you place them, must always be done with magnification, even when you are working on a master page, whether you are working, you know, on a page or on a cover. The minute the green guides are involved, please use magnification. I get the magnifying tool again, and here I come to this edge and I draw a green guide right here. Okay. So first step, if you do Control 0, you can snap back to the regular view. Here is my grouped cover grid for a paperback. This will be my front cover, this will be my spine, and this will be my back cover. First step is to draw the green guides on all four sides. Second step is you do Command U on the group so that you ungroup it. Each box, can you see that? Each box is now an individual box. Here, select the back box, take the magnifying glass and draw a square over this little box handle. Because we need a center guide, the center guide ideally with a lot of magnification, try and have the center guide going through the little handle of the box like this. We are basically marking the center box. I also want to mark the edges of my boxes. So here is the division. I will need this later. Here is the division between back cover and spine. Here is the division between front cover and spine, right? So this is another box. I'm isolating the spine box by putting a guide on every side. If you have to drop a guide halfway through your design, you can always pick it up later. With my magnification on, I click in the spine box, and here I have another center. Even if you deselect it, you can always select it again and make sure the guide goes right as much as possible through that little handle. Okay, we have marked the center of the spine. I select the front cover box and I again magnify, and here I draw my last center guide. Okay, this we will need to later identify the center of these boxes. This is ideally what your first level artwork should look like. Okay, we did a box, we did step and repeat, and we got the spine box. We changed the width, we step and repeated this box, we got another box, and we changed the width. 5 inches by 8 inches, half inch by 8 inch, 5 inch by 8 inch. Then we selected all the boxes and we did group. Then we came down to space align and we said item, not item relative, we said page relative, and got our artwork to the center of the page. Okay, vertical center, horizontal center. Needless to say, you must keep saving your work. Then once everything was in the center, we use the magnifying tool to draw little boxes, to pretend draw little boxes. Drawing that little box with the magnifying tool is an instruction to Quark that magnify this corner, magnify this corner. Instead of wasting a lot of time clicking on the magnifying glass, I've just discovered this is a much quicker way, and you get increased magnification. The smaller the box you draw, the more you get magnification. Do that on all 4 sides and draw top guide, 2 top guides from the top and 2 side guides from the side rule. After that, go back to the magnifying tool. Make sure you have ungrouped the boxes, because now you need the center handles of all the 3 boxes. When they are a group, only one handle will show, right? So if you get confused, remember somewhere along the way you've probably forgotten to ungroup them. Ungroup starts with U. The command for ungroup is Command U, okay, or Control U. And if you see on the screen, 3 center guides are required. Center point of the back cover, center point of the front cover, and center point of the spine. Now we will come to a very interesting part. I had referred to this yesterday when I was discussing the line tool, and I had mentioned in passing something called crop marks, and I will show you what the crop mark is. We go back to the zoom tool or the magnifying tool and we draw. Can you see how tiny the box is? Here's a tiny little box that I'm drawing. If necessary, you can draw another one to make sure that you are on as much magnification as possible. We go to the line tool and we press shift. We press shift because it lets us draw a straight line, and we draw from top to bottom, okay, top to bottom, a little line like this. Now, the first change we need to make to this little line is we want it to be only 0.5 inches thick. We don't need it any thicker, okay. Make sure it's not showing end points over here. Even if it is, you can always choose left point. And now comes the crucial bit. Here the measurement should be 0.118, okay. You can either put 0.118 or you can write 3 millimeters, whatever works for you. This line you now select with your cursor, okay, and you must place it in a way. Can you see that when I select the line, there is a little blue line showing the center of the line? Move it with your mouse and put it so that roughly or as close as possible, the blue line, the guide is going through the center of the line. This is very important, and this is why excess magnification is very, very useful, okay. This is where, can you see, actually the line is very small. 0.118 is 3 millimeters. But when we place it, try and use maximum magnification so that it's absolutely exact like this. Don't forget the 3 millimeters, it's very important. The conversion of 3 millimeters in the inches unit of measurement is 0.118. So whichever is easy. Basically what we have done is we have just drawn a line that is 3 millimeters tall. This is what you must keep in mind. The line is 3 millimeters tall, okay. Why this measurement is important will become clear to you very soon. Now, I reduce magnification. How do I reduce magnification a little bit? You choose the magnifying tool and you press Alt, and you will notice a minus sign comes up, which means it's demagnifying, and you can keep clicking, okay, and you can tell it's decreasing. If you don't want to go so slowly, again Control 0 and you're back to the regular view. Now I come here, I copy this line and I paste it. So I have a duplicate line. Unlike the first line, which is going in the north-south direction, this line I want it to go in the east-west direction. Instead of drawing another line and worrying about it and again putting the measurements and so on, once I've copy pasted the line, I just come down here, the angle I just turn to 0, okay, and I place it, I grip it and I place it this way, okay. And if there's any doubt in my mind about whether I've placed it well, always remagnify and double check. It is in fact well placed. Please observe that correctly placed crop marks will sit like an inverted L, okay. These are crop marks. These marks, once the book is printed, will be used for either cutting away the excess paper from around your cover, or they will indicate to the binder where the folds will come. Okay, crop marks or folding marks, they are always 3 millimeters tall. You don't need them to be any taller. They don't have to be 1 point thick. They can be half point thick. That's enough. When you first place them, you must manually place this top north to south one. You must manually place this one sideways. Having done this, now I need a crop mark along the top. So what do? I'll make this just a little bit bigger so you can see. I select the first north-south crop mark, as I call it. Make sure only that one is selected. And I go to item, back to super step and repeat. Okay. And now if you're looking at my screen, the crop mark has to travel across the back cover. So it has to travel across the width of the back cover. My back cover was 5 inches wide. Now see what happens. The crop mark appears here. That's wonderful. Now the crop mark has to travel across the spine. We are going in the east-west direction, which means we are traveling horizontally. Vertical offset stays 0. Okay. The width of the spine was 0.5 and we have one at the spine. Then again super step and repeat. It has to go across the back cover, full 5 inches, and there we are. Okay. Once this whole sequence on the top, can you see there's one here, one here, one here, and one here. These outer ones will be for trimming, the inner ones will be for folding. If possible, press Shift, select all the crop marks. If you keep Shift pressed while selecting, it lets you select several items at the same time. Once you have selected, save them as a group. Okay, all the crop marks will now move together. Okay. We also need matching crop marks at the bottom. So we go to item and we go to super step and repeat. Now we are going in the north-south direction. So horizontal will become off, which means 0. Vertical will get the length of the book, which was 8 inches, plus the length of the crop mark, which was 0.118, and I say OK, and there you see how beautifully the crop marks have appeared at the bottom of the design. Okay. When you are sending the crop marks to the bottom, it's the height plus the length of the crop mark. Okay. Don't forget, just a little bit of mental mathematics needs to be done, because the crop mark travels from its own length. The crop mark is counting its own head as the distance also. So its own length is 0.118 and it has to cover the length of the book, the height of the book, which is 8. So 8 height of the book plus 0.118, which is the height of the crop mark. Therefore, horizontal offset becomes 0, vertical offset becomes these two heights together. Now we go back to the zoom look. Here we go. You can click a few times. We now need to tackle this crop mark. Okay. The other one, the one that we had given the 0 angle to. Making sure it is selected, I go to item and I come to super step and repeat, and this time you don't need to add the length of the crop mark, you just put the finished size, which is 8, okay. It has to sit exactly on your green guide, and here we are. Select this, okay, with shift, and you group this as well. All crop marks, once they are in position, should be grouped. If you move the left right crop marks, they will move together. If you move the top crop marks, they'll all move together. If you move the bottom crop marks, they will all move together. This is vital, otherwise you will get a strange line which the poor binder will try, or the trimmer of the sheets will try to match, and there will be chaos and you will end up getting a crooked cover. Okay, be very careful. This side is done, the bottom is done, right? We have crop marks on top, bottom and side. The other side is here, which is the absolute right hand side. So now I can do a little bit of mental mathematics, right? 5 inches for the front cover, 5 inches for the back cover is 10 inches, half inch for the spine is 10.5 inches. And since we are going in the horizontal offset, there is also the width, the length of the crop mark. So I come to super step and repeat. No more vertical, vertical is not required, this becomes 0, and I say okay, 5 inches back cover plus 5 inches front cover plus 0.5 inches spine plus 0.118, which is the length of the crop mark, and I say okay, and I have obviously selected something else. Let's select the crop mark, righto. Let's repeat the mathematics over here. It has already done the maths and got the correct value. I simply say okay, and you will notice here we have crop marks on my edge, okay. Now, since we have magnified, after placing the crop marks in position like so, I would like to draw another set of guides. Now see where I am placing the guides, one on top and one on the outer edge, okay. One on the outer edge of this crop mark, and I can come to this corner, okay, the lower corner, and I can do both here. See, one green guide to the outer edge over here and one green guide to the bottom like so. Fine. This is it. So if you zoom out, if you do Command 0 or Control 0 and you zoom out, you will now see that your design has 2 green guides all around it, okay. And the crop mark currently, the starting position of the crop mark is to be sitting between the green guides, right. If I turn off my guides, you can see this is how your crop marks are looking. They look like inverted L's, okay. If you look at the alphabet L, this is inverted, they are touching at the corner here, here and here. I am going to turn my guides on again from view. Once this is done, zoom in. A lot of zooming in and zooming out will happen when you are artworking your cover, okay. The minute you have to move something, the minute you have to place those initial crop marks, the minute you have to draw a guide, you should zoom in as much as possible. Once you've done a bit, you zoom out and take a look. Again, you zoom in and you do, the easy way to zoom in is by drawing a box with the magnifying glass. Easy way to zoom out is to do Command 0 or Control 0. So it's actually not as complicated as it sounds. Once you've drawn your double green guide, select each group of crop marks. Now remember, make sure they are grouped. If they are loose, if they are single, you're in trouble. This you can tell when they are grouped, because you'll see on my screen a dotted line appears like this, showing that it is connected to other objects, okay. Gently, 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 gently move the crop mark up. If it has moved up too much, lightly grip it and make it sit on the outer green guide. You can always do this with shift pressed, because shift lets you move things in straight lines. So that also is an option for you. I've done this corner, done, and now I can come to the bottom left. So top right corner lets me tackle 2 and bottom right lets me tackle 2. Here we go. I select this, press shift and just move it out, okay. Just gently move it out, and this also I just move out. Remember, this is the importance of grouping your crop marks. As you can see, all the bottom crop marks are highlighted and they have all moved together. So my printer or binder will not get a crooked line when they are following these marks after printing, correct? If I now hide my guides, you'll notice that while the beginning position of the crop marks was that they were joined, the end and final position of the crop marks is in fact that they are separated. What did we just do? The crop mark's height is 3 millimeters. We first placed it on the design. Using the head of the crop mark on all four sides, we could draw a second green guide. The area that the crop mark occupies is 3 millimeters. And 3 millimeters is also the amount of excess area or bleed that is required around every design. You will remember this from when we added 0.118 to opening a new document. I told you bleed is required on the top, on the bottom and outside. When we are working on the inner pages, bleed is required top, outside and bottom because the spine doesn't require any bleed. When we work on a flat cover artwork, bleed must be put on all four sides. So we have actually been very clever. Because our crop mark itself is 3 millimeters, we said, great, let's put a 3 millimeter crop mark on the design. And if we put another guide on top, it's understood that the space occupied by the crop mark is 3 millimeters. Once I outlined that 3 millimeter area, I'll just push the crop mark on top, out to the bottom and out. So I know now, if I turn my guides on and if you're looking at my screen, the area between the green guides is therefore my 3 millimeter bleed. How easily we have arrived at it. Now, before I begin to design, what I must do is just open the boxes out to the second green guide. Okay, I open the box out. The spine, I only open the top and the bottom. You can also ideally do this with magnification turned on so that you are making them very, very accurate and that they are really touching the green guide. Okay, make sure you turn magnification on. But I have in fact opened up the boxes, and this is when you can see that where my mouse is going around. Can you see that? You are ultimately going to be working in a slightly bigger box, just as on the page you were working with a document that was slightly bigger than your finish, because some will get trimmed. So also in a cover, which is why I made you draw the center guide right at the beginning, because if you try to draw the center guide of a box that has bleed, you will get an artificial center. Okay, the box you began with, the box that you were step and repeating, the box that was 5 by 8, the center of the 5 by 8 box is your true center. And that is the center point you will be left with when the cover has got printed and the excess has been dropped. So remember, don't draw the center point or the center guide later. Please draw it before you do anything else to your design. I hope this is clear. Let me hide my guides. This is what your design should look like. Boxes are extending up to the crop marks. Finish position of the crop marks is a little away from each other. Starting position is when they are touching, and when you turn your guides back on, your design should have a double guide margin on all four sides. Okay, now we can turn on our colors option. Okay, now we turn on the colors option. And we remember what we have done for the front cover, because we have already designed that front cover earlier. So I'm going to, just for the sake of illustration, I am just going to bring in a front cover. Usually, like I told you, we do the front cover first. So let me bring in, let's get this one, right? This has been done by me already somewhere. So I go to that Quark file and I open the file and I group my design and I bring it in here. Usually I place it on the side and then slowly one by one I copy paste the design into this box. Okay, please note, can you see how my box, this is my finished size. Look at the top of the box. This is my finished size. Because I want red going right across the top, I must put bleed. All it means is extend the picture to the edge of the second green guide. My box is open, so all I have to do is extend it so that now when somebody trims my design, even if they trim a millimeter more or a millimeter less, there is enough of the red to cover it up and I won't be left with an ugly white line. If I don't give bleed and if I leave my picture like this, as you can well imagine, if something goes even slightly wrong at the page trimming level, at the the cover trimming level, I will have white showing up and that will spoil my design, right? So this becomes my front cover. Now I will have to decide, what do I want on the spine, right? Do I want color? Do I want picture, etc., etc.? What do I want on my back cover? Can I use my eyedropper tool, maybe select the shade of green, add it to my color palette, and I notice this is RGB. The minute you see this chaos happening, you realize, oops, my source picture is RGB, so I must double click on it. I must go to edit original, and here in Photoshop it's showing quite rightly as RGB. I must first change this to CMYK and save it. Now when I come here and double click, I can update it. You'll notice immediately the colors have become less bright. Now I take my eyedropper tool. Now I select a shade of green. Now I double click and it's a CMYK image. And I now do OK. And if I want, I can add that to my back cover, right? Here we go. So here, this process is known as artworking your cover. Boxes are created according to measurement. 3 millimeter crop marks are first added on all 4 sides. Center guides are placed on each box. Then you draw the second level of guides using the body of the crop mark, to show you that 3 millimeter area, and then you move the crop marks away from your design. They must be sitting on the outer green guide. After that, you must open up each box, open up the front cover box, open up the spine, and open up the back cover box so that they are touching those outer green guides. Doing this, you have just given 3 millimeter bleed on all 4 sides of your design. Tomorrow, I will show you some other factors that come in to designing a cover. With you have a spine, you have a back cover, what elements go on those parts of the covers. I will also show you how to artwork sort of a hardback jacket, and then I will do a little bit of a recap. Please keep in mind that I am showing you some of the very bare bones and the very essentials, although very necessary essentials of book cover design. When you have a moment, if you have the interest, if you have the software, if you have a laptop, please try and use all the tools. Please try and explore all the menus on the top of the page. Please get online and look up Quark Express forums, discussions. There is also a help manual in Quark, which is a PDF that you can read. There are many other features contained in the software, many other tips and tricks that you can avail of. So, help yourself, learn as much as you can, press every button, explore every menu. There will be many more things you discover. I am giving you enough to start you off on the journey of bookmaking. You must expand your own journey.
Hi, I'm Chitwan Lalji, a PhD student of Health Economics. under the supervision of Dr. Debayan Pakrashi from the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, IIT Kanpur. In one of my essays, I am interested in understanding the relationship between consumption of fruits and vegetables and various health indicators. Health indicators, both subjective and objective health indicators like mental health, self-assessed health, various measures of blood pressure and various measures of cholesterol. Measures of blood pressure like systolic and diastolic BP, you have your incidence of high BP, MAP and incidence of high MAP. And as far as cholesterol is concerned, I have tried to concentrate more on total cholesterol, good cholesterol and incidence of high cholesterol. Now before I go on to what have been my major contributions and various policy implications, I would like to briefly tell you about the policy initiatives of WHO and various countries. The WHO, that is the World Health Organization, it started with a campaign of 5 a day. That is, you should have 5 portions of fruits and vegetables per day. That would be approximately, you could say, 400 grams of fruits and vegetables. Now, a portion, before we go further, I'll just tell you what exactly is a portion. One portion is equivalent to a medium-sized apple, or one small glass of fruit juice, which is approximately 150 milliliters, and maybe 3 teaspoons of vegetables. So, the WHO went with a 5 a day campaign, which was further taken up by various countries. Countries like UK, Netherlands, Germany, Norway, they adopted the 5 a day policy, while some went for expansionary dietary policies like France, Australia, Canada, Denmark. So, for example, Australia, it went for 2+5 policy, in which it said that you should consume 2 portions of fruits and 5 portions of vegetables per day. And USA went for a policy of fruits and vegetables more matters. That is, you must consume more and more fruits and vegetables. Now, irrespective of these expansionary dietary policies and dietary propagations, it has been found that only 28% of women and 25% of men, they actually meet the recommended dietary norms of 5 a day portion. So, the major contribution of my work is firstly to find an association between fruits and vegetables, whether there exists a relationship between fruits and vegetables and health indicators, and if they exist, whether due to heterogeneity in the data, so I will be doing it according to age, by gender and by your weight. So, apart from that, I will go for policy recommendations, in which I am basically studying how much fruits and vegetables matter. Apart from that, which type matters more. So, for that, I have taken data from the Health Survey of England. Health Survey of England is an annual survey which takes data, which conducts information regularly on demographic and socioeconomic characteristics. You have your lifestyle behaviors like an individual smokes or doesn't smoke, alcohol consumption, you have your sedentary and physical activities, and you have various health indicators also which have been collected. Before I go on to what exactly is my research, I would like to concentrate more on fruits and vegetables, like what kind of questions were asked in the survey. Questions like, what kind of fresh fruit do you eat? Did you eat any dried fruit yesterday? Don't count dried fruits in cereals, cakes. Apart from that, for vegetables, they asked how many tablespoons of vegetables did you eat yesterday? So, approximately after this whole survey was conducted, data was converted into portions of fruits, and like for example, 3 tablespoons of vegetables is equivalent to 1 portion. So, data was converted and provided to the users, that is us, from the UK Data Health Survey. So, the major contributions of my paper is that I found a strong negative association between intake of fruits and self-assessed health, then various measures of blood pressure like mean arterial pressure, high blood pressure, systolic and diastolic BP, and your total cholesterol. Apart from that, I have found a strong positive association between consumption of vegetables and good cholesterol. So, it is recommended in a way that if you want to control your blood pressure, you must consume more and more fruits. And as far as vegetables are concerned, they impact your good cholesterol. Apart from that, I went in for a falsification test. A falsification test is basically conducted to know whether the model that you have adopted and the conclusions that you are drawing are not spurious. So, if a falsification test is done to know, in a way it is tested by seeing an indicator, a health indicator, which is not being impacted by your consumption of fruits and vegetables, and then we see whether there is significant result or not. If there is no significant result, that means your model is good and your results are non-spurious. So what we did is, for falsification test, we took ear complaints and infectious diseases. Now ear complaints, like if you are deaf since birth, or you have some kind of imbalance, body imbalance, that is not being impacted by your consumption of fruits and vegetables, and we did find insignificant results. Apart from that, infectious diseases like HIV, AIDS, etc., we found similar insignificant results, indicating that our results are not non-spurious. Apart from that, we went, since there was a lot of heterogeneity in the data, like by gender, by age and by weight, we did the regression analysis. We found results which stated that as far as fruits are concerned, it impacts a male's health more than a female's health. So it is basically said a man should consume more fruits to impact his health, whereas as far as vegetables are concerned, they impact a women's health more. But this has been only seen as far as cholesterol is concerned, the various measures of cholesterol like total cholesterol, good cholesterol and your incidence of getting high cholesterol. Now after this, we went in for a policy implication, and in the policy implication we tried to find two policy implications: what matters and exactly how much portion matters. So as far as how much portion matters, we have found that on an average 5 or more portions of fruits impact your overall health, that is your self-assessed health, your MAP, your incidence of high MAP and incidence of high BP. But if you want to have a good mental health, so you can optimize your mental health by consuming 3 or 4 portions of fruits as well. And similarly, as far as self-assessed health and total cholesterol is concerned, an individual must consume 4 to 5 portions to optimally have the impact of consumption of fruits. Apart from that, vegetables have had a very little impact on your health. It only impacts your incidence of getting high MAP and high BP, and it's seen that only it impacts when you consume 5 or more portions of fruits. So an optimum consumption of 5 or more portions of fruits and vegetables are recommended, but fruits have a more impact on your overall health, on various measures like self-assessed health, mental health, your various measures of blood pressure and various cholesterol levels. Another thing that we find is which type of fruit matters. It has been seen that all size fruits, they impact your self-assessed health, your systolic and diastolic blood pressure, your mean arterial pressure, your high BP and incidence of getting high MAP and high cholesterol. But we find that as far as frozen fruits or canned fruits are concerned, they help in regulating your incidence of getting high MAP or high BP, but it has a trade-off. That means there is something negative happening. It reduces the good cholesterol in your body. Apart from this, if you have an incidence of getting high cholesterol, it is recommended that you must consume fruit juices, because it has a impact in reducing your probability of getting high cholesterol. And dried fruits, they impact your self-assessed health. As far as vegetables are concerned, very little impact has been seen. It has only been seen in case of portion of salads and its association with self-assessed health. Another thing that they have seen is vegetables in composite, they have an association with good cholesterol. So overall, my research basically says that there is an association between consumption of fruits and vegetables and various health indicators, and it is highly recommended that an individual, in order to be healthy, must consume 5 or more portions of fruits and 5 or more portions of vegetables per day, but fruits have a more impact on your overall health. Apart from that, all size fruits, they have a better impact on your overall health, your mental health, various measures of blood pressure and cholesterol. So, thank you.
Hello and welcome to this piece of literary snippet. Today we are going to read a section from Virginia Woolf's novel Orlando, and the section that we are going to listen to today is perhaps one of the finest descriptions of the winter season in English literature. It is also a very fine piece of what we call fantasy writing. I have made a few changes to the original to adapt it for the purpose of reading. The Great Frost was, historians tell us, the most severe that has ever visited these islands. Birds froze in mid-air and fell like stones to the ground. At Norwich, a young countrywoman started to cross the road in her usual robust health and was seen by the onlookers to turn visibly to powder and be blown in a puff of dust over the roofs. The mortality among sheep and cattle was enormous. Corpses froze and could not be drawn from the sheets. It was no uncommon sight to come upon a whole herd of swine frozen immovable upon the road. The fields were full of shepherds, ploughmen, teams of horses, and little bird-scaring boys, all struck stark in the act of the moment. One with his hand to his nose, another with a bottle to his lips, a third with a stone raised to throw at the ravens who sat upon the hedge within a yard of him as if they were stuffed birds. The severity of the frost was so extraordinary that a kind of petrification sometimes ensued. It was commonly supposed that the great increase of rocks in some parts of Derbyshire was due to no eruption, for there was no eruptions. Rather, it was supposed that they were due to the solidification of unfortunate wayfarers who had been turned literally to stones where they stood. The church could give little help in the matter, and though some landowners had these relics blessed, the most part preferred to use them either as landmarks, scratching posts for sheep, or when the form of the stone allowed, drinking troughs for cattle, which purpose they serve admirably for the most part to this day. But while the country people suffered the extremity of want, and the trade of the country was at a standstill, London enjoyed a carnival of utmost brilliance. The new king directed that the river, which was frozen to a depth of 20 feet, should be swept, decorated, and given all the semblance of a park or pleasure ground, with arbors, mazes, alleys, drinking booths, all at his expense, of course. Frozen roses fell in showers when the queen and her ladies walked abroad. Colored balloons hovered motionless in the air. Here and there burnt vast bonfires of cedar and oak wood, lavishly salted so that the flame were of green, orange, and purple fire. But however fiercely they burnt, the heat was not enough to melt the ice, which, though of singular transparency, was yet of the hardness of steel. So clear, indeed, was the ice that there could be seen, congealed at a depth of several feet, here a porpoise, there a flounder. Shoals of eels lay motionless in a trance, but whether their state was one of death or merely of suspended animation which the warmth would revive, puzzled the philosophers. In short, nothing could exceed the brilliancy and gaiety of the scene by day. But it was at night that the carnival was at its merriest. The nights were of perfect stillness. The moon and stars blazed with the hard fixity of diamonds, and to the fine music of flute and trumpet the courtiers danced. See you in the next episode of Literary Snippet.